Yes, welcome to Los Angeles, everybody. Coming to you today from Studio 309. So many podcasts out there you can listen to. Thank you for checking out mine. Who's my guest today? It's actor Glen Powell.
Oh, thanks, man.
Glen, I got to tell you something. I host a rom-com night, monthly rom-com night at my house, me and a bunch of my friends. And when I reached out to you this time last year, we had watched Set It Up, and you were such a charming fuck.
Oh,
I was
thanks,
like,
man.
who is this guy? He's such a charming
I appreciate that.
motherfucker. And everyone was like, he's lovely. So I was like, I gotta talk to this guy. You're so great in that film.
I think most people think I'm a dick in that movie.
I disagree.
Oh, I appreciate that.
I hate to look down on your delightful co-star Zoe, but I thought her character was the
Oh,
dick.
really? Wow.
I thought you were nicer.
I feel like I have fewer redeemable qualities in that movie, but no, I appreciate it. I had a great time making that movie.
It seemed like you guys had a lot of fun.
We did. Zoe and I have known each other for a long time, since the Linklater movie Everybody Wants Some.
Oh, sure.
So that was our second at bat, which was pretty damn fun. And we're about to make a third one.
Oh.
About to make a movie called Most Dangerous Game.
Oh, amazing.
Another Netflix rom-com.
Oh, hell yeah.
But very different from the other one. This one's way more action-packed. It's going to be fun.
Oh, I can't wait for the rom-com night to digest that one.
Totally.
I also wanted to say, I did email you like a year ago.
Yeah.
You wrote me the nicest email, and now it's a year later you're doing this podcast.
Yes.
Thank you so much for sticking with me.
Of course, man. Of course.
I hate to bash my fellow actors, but when I get pawned off to like assistants and publicists, that's kind of the end of it. I never hear from them again. But your assistant was delightful. You guys...
No, I'm committed to making it happen. I really did want to make it happen. The problem is over the Top Gun, which I'm not allowed to talk about, but it did own me for the past year. It literally took up every single ounce of my schedule. So the problem is when you're at the mercy of, Tom Cruise's work ethic, it's just hard to make stuff happen.
And I totally get that, but I just wanted to say I really appreciate you sticking to it, because it's scheduling in this town is a nightmare. I don't know.
It's tough.
You have an assistant now, so you don't have to deal with it. But you mentioned improv earlier. Try scheduling a UCB team. Even that's a fucking nightmare.
I know. Well, and honestly, that's like to really make it out in this town. I think there's a level of who's really committed to what. Like, there's so many bright, shiny objects in this town that you can join in on and be a part of. But you really start to understand in this town, because there are so many options and people are inherently flaky. You really start to see who's committed to getting something done and who's not. So I've been committed to getting this done.
My man.
So let's do it.
My man. Hey, I usually start this off with a rant, but I wanted to run something by you, because we're at very different stages in our careers. Okay. I would venture to guess.
We're drinking the same beer, man. Let's just do this.
That's right. You just were traveling for a little bit.
Yeah.
I wanted to run this by you because I'm just curious if this ever changes. I love to travel, obviously. Yeah. I know a lot of people at my level that love to travel, but we fucking hate to do it because we feel like the moment we leave town, we're going to miss an opportunity. Like, I'm supposed to go to Banff next week with a really good friend. I still haven't booked my flight. Because I just know the moment I book my flight, I'm going to get a co-star gig on some Netflix show or whatever.
Absolutely.
So I'm like so afraid to I love to travel, but I'm so afraid to leave this town because it's such a ficky bitch. And once you do, it wants you.
Absolutely.
Do you experience that too? Do you feel guilty or scared to leave town at all at this point in your career?
Look, I totally understand where you are, by the way, because no, but seriously, because the problem is every opportunity, if you miss that opportunity, could be the opportunity that changes it, right?
Right.
But I have also realized that, whether you're sort of a believer in it or not, is that whenever you start making other plans, whenever you are sort of too busy to hire, that's when people want you. I have now understood the power of the word no in this town, and that when people are like, "Hey, I want you to do this," and I'm like, "I probably can't," or I know, or like, this is what I'm after. It just makes people want you more. It's just Hollywood is dating. You know what I mean? It's just dating.
It is, especially with reps too. This has come up on my podcast more than once. There needs to be like a dating app for reps and actors.
Absolutely.
To swipe right and left, you're like, oh, this guy's cool, or this guy's not, because it's very much like that, which is so funny. Yeah,
I've just sort of been under the belief that I used to be exactly like that, because it's not easy to make this career happen, and you do see people miss opportunities and sort of never get another one.
Yeah.
But I also think that, go to Banff, man. Like, just get it done, because truly, I think that there's a thing where you're just like, hey, he can't come in because he's doing this thing. Sometimes it makes people just go, what are we missing out on? You know,
Right.
like, I don't know.
I wonder what level that hits at, though. It's definitely not my level. Like at co-star level, they're not going to be like, "Oh, he said no. We want him for this five."
I get what
so
you're
I
saying.
wonder where that level does occur. But it is interesting. And let me ask you something else
Yeah.
that happens to me. And this might just be me, but I think other people experience this. When you do travel,
Yeah.
and you finally go, and I went to Australia earlier this year. I was there for 2 weeks, and I was like, why am I in Hollywood? I should move here, have like a low stakes bartender job where I don't have to stress about anything, live in somewhere exotic location that people come to you.
Yeah.
Rather than fucking chasing people in auditions. Do you romanticize that? Do you think about fuck you Hollywood when you go too? Or are you
You know what's interesting is I personally think it's so important to get out of this town
Yeah, I do
because
too.
it's just an echo chamber. Everybody's thinking about the same thing,
Yeah.
and ideas are sort of recycled out here. And
Right.
you know, it's when you're all thinking about the same stuff, drinking the same drinks, frequenting the same place. There's never going to be anything exciting or new.
Right.
So I think like getting out is important. I do have a great crew here. I've been here 11 years, so I really have, I think, assembled a amazing, adventurous group of friends who, you know, aren't overthinking this thing too much and are down to leave. But I get bored. I have like a hard time sitting still.
Yeah.
So like I feel like Australia, for me, like a week, go surf, go hang, go drink with people, go meet new people. I'm down. For a week, max. Like when I go back to Austin, which is a very low key town, that's where I'm from. Like
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, I got to get out. Like I love this town, but I got to get back clicking because this business is something I've been dreaming about for my whole life. And I do love talking with people about movies. Like if I meet a stranger and they want to talk about movies, I'll talk to you for hours.
Yeah.
I just love movies. So I do feel like it's a privilege to be out here because this town does try to kick you out as soon as possible.
Oh, absolutely. And then when it kicks you out, it wants you back immediately.
Exactly. Go to Banff, man.
Yeah, I am going to go to Banff, but I just know I'm going to get an audition the moment I leave, which is funny.
It's how it works.
I know, it's so funny.
Yeah.
But I love that idea of saying no. I read a book recently, and now I'm going to blank on the title. I want to say it was like The Power of No or something like that, where people respect you more when you do say no.
Absolutely. I think
In everything. Not just...
It shows a level of quality control, confidence, and I think in a town, in a world where everybody kind of questions who they are, what they represent, you know, what their moral compass is and how far they're willing to go, I think that people that are willing to draw the line and say, yo, this is what I'm worthy of.
Yeah.
I think people respect it because inherently we're all sort of hoping that we live up to our own idea.
Absolutely.
Of what that is, you know?
Yeah. I love that. That was my rant. It wasn't really a rant.
No, it's a cool rant, man. I'm
rant.
down to be a part of it. That was good.
Hey, the guest beer is Mama's Little Yellow Pills. You're drinking it with me.
That's good, man.
It's
I'm
not
into
my
it.
beer sponsor anymore, but it works. It's good, right?
Yeah, it's still good.
You were talking about how you drink less beer. You started something before we started recording.
Yeah. Well, when I first moved out here, being from Texas, you obviously drink a lot of beer.
Yeah, I'm from the Midwest. Very similar.
Yeah, so you take down a lot of beer, but very quickly you realize what that looks like on screen and what sort of the expectations are, like body-wise, you know, if you're going to try to do the whole leading man thing out here. So I have switched to tequila. So I just do tequila rocks.
Oh, wow.
Maybe a little orange slice.
What kind of tequila?
Casamigos.
Yeah.
I love Casamigos.
See, what I wanted to say to you was I'm kind of the opposite of that.
Well, okay.
I feel like I have to drink beer to maintain my you know what I mean? I'm rocking the dad bod at this point.
Gotcha.
And when I go out for all these fucking commercial auditions, I'm
That's
goofy
hilarious.
dad bod guy. If I stopped drinking beer, man, I'd be in this weird no man's land.
That's so funny, dude. I mean, I get it. It's really funny. It's almost like when Jonah Hill got too skinny.
No, absolutely. That's what it is.
I was like, oh, it's kind of. It doesn't really make sense. Or like Seth Rogen right now. I saw him at the Lion King premiere. He was like kind of, I don't know if he was shredded, but like he was definitely very lean and mean. And I was like, oh, that's like a different Rogen.
Yeah, I'm afraid to get bulked up. You know, I could if I really wanted to. I could do it in like 3 weeks.
Yeah,
but
totally. We're all like a couple weeks away from something. Yeah.
Yeah. I've thought about going vegan, but I got to maintain my.
Totally. The vegan thing. Either I actually am gearing up for something that I'm just gonna try it out, but being from Texas, I don't think I could do it. I really don't. I really want to. I know it's like good for the environment. It's like super healthy, and all my friends who are doing. I just don't. I would lose all my friends. I really think I would.
But were they ever your friends in the first place then?
Yes, I honestly, I've tried to date girls that are full vegan.
Oh yeah.
It's a very small list of restaurants.
I know.
And it's tough.
I think. Are you a single guy? I assume then.
Yeah.
I feel like it's harder for single people to do that sort of special diet because it's like to buy fresh fruit, you have to go, or veggies, you have to go out every other day, and it doesn't seem economical for a single person to do that.
Yeah, I think I would have to learn how to cook differently. I got smokers and grills and things like that. I'd have to just learn how to do them for vegetables.
Smoked beets.
Yeah, smoked beets. Like, this guy sounds like a real fun time. No, the problem is that it is so intensive, like in terms of like the prep.
Yeah.
And there's so many rules.
That's what. Yeah.
Again, taking people to the ranch. There's some vegans, and it's tough.
Yeah.
Like I realized I was like, all right, there's a lot of prep. There's so many rules around it that if you're cooking for mass quantities, which I love to have, like a bunch of people around for football games or whatever, it's like it's tough.
Yeah.
I mean, Dallas Cowboys and vegans don't really work. It's just tough.
It doesn't seem accessible either. To me,
what do you mean accessible?
It's not easy to get, as you said. There's not a lot of restaurants.
No,
I can't imagine I can go to Vaughn's and buy vegan easy, but maybe I could. Maybe I'm just too lazy to figure it out.
No, I honestly, it's intensive. Like the interesting part is, we have sort of talked about, there's a Captain Planet movie sort of coming down the pipeline.
Oh.
And what's interesting is we've sort of talked about how do you actually save the planet, and one of the things that we've talked about is. It is to truly be able to do it. There's so much sacrifice and so much like time that goes into actually being an individual who cares about the environment. And I have realized that no one has a lot of time for that.
Yeah.
And so it's really about finding solutions that don't require people to make sacrifices that almost require them to do things like that are just, it's not going to happen.
Right.
Like you going vegan.
Right.
Where it's not going to happen.
Right.
Right. Like it's just too much damn time. I'm not going to see you at the market, like it requires.
It's also a career choice. Let's remember. It's a career choice.
Remember, it's also a career choice. Like nobody really wants that Channing Tatum Magic Mike body. Like,
No.
I don't want it.
It's too bulky for me.
Gross.
Hey, I like to ask about like process and rituals. So, speaking of that, I feel like you got to work out a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Are you always? Is that a ritual of yours?
I tend to, between projects, like while I'm actually shooting a movie, I tend to try to cut out as much alcohol as possible. Just kind of keep the brain firing.
Yeah.
It's a very brain and energy intensive kind of job. So sometimes if you're
drinking, you're talking about, right?
Yeah, exactly. I throw everything I have into drinking when I drink. But I also so I try to chill out that. So that means between jobs, I go full spring break.
Smart.
Yeah. I just let it loose, and that's what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
I'm just chilling. I'm catching up with people. Not saying no to a drink and having a great time. But as we sort of are gearing up for the next one, you'll start to see me back in the gym and start cutting out those things that make the body, getting the body in shape a little tougher. Yeah.
Do you have a trainer, or do you do Pilates or something?
Yeah.
What are you rocking?
What do you do, Pilates?
I don't know. Taibo? What's so hot right now?
Taibo. Taibo's very in. Yeah.
I haven't been in a gym in 15 years.
No, what's I try to switch it up all the time, but really I've been training with this guy Nick Mitchell, who owns this gym called Ultimate Performance, and that's what I got in shape for Top Gun for. That guy.
Nice.
This guy is an animal. Very, very focused, smart British guy who has created like these gyms that have been like now there's hundreds around the country. I mean, not around the world, but
what's the emphasis? Is it weight training, cardio?
It's heavy weight training, which
wow.
I've actually usually stay away from because on camera, like you look too bulky.
You
just look too like you look fat.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I've just been told to like lean out, but this guy just has the system that just like works, and I just got gnarly.
That's dope.
Like, best shape of my life.
Like 2 hours a day? How much were you doing?
An hour a day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it was like way less work than I've done before.
That's amazing.
Like on Scream Queens, I like worked out like crazy, and I was way less cut than this. So, Anyway, this is such a bro conversation. Jeez.
Okay, let's talk
Such a douche meathead.
Not really. That's pretty basic. I feel like that's pretty normal.
Yeah.
What about like acting wise? Before you audition
Yeah.
for something or before you are on set, do you have any rituals or process? Like
do.
prepping for an audition, break it down. What would you do?
Prepping for an audition,
Or at the audition.
It just sort of depends on what you are going for. Like, what is the? There's no one way to prep for a role. Sometimes I go, okay, like, what's his character's job? Learn a little bit more about the job. Like, let's say he's a lawyer. I'm like, okay, is he a guy that's doing the paperwork, or is he a guy that talks fast? Is he a used car salesman, or is he Atticus Finch?
Yeah.
And like, what is he a guy that, has been punched in the face a bunch of times? Like, is this like a repo guy? Like,
yeah.
Maybe that affects the way he breathes. Is this a guy who is used to winning, or is this a guy who carries himself like a loser? It's like, you just sort of like start asking those sort of questions. It sort of informs, again, the way you walk, the way you talk, the way you carry yourself, if you look people in the eyes, and just sort of the intention behind everything. And you just sort of look at what that force is behind a character, and I feel like that's the way I just sort of approach it. So there's no one real way. I think I just sort of like throw as many pebbles at something and just see what happens.
Yeah. Throw the pebbles in the lake and see where the ripples go.
Yeah, exactly. Or just like, if you're, they see like a squirrel in a tree, right?
Yeah.
If you throw a pebble at a squirrel, I don't do that. I'm just saying, if I did, does the squirrel run at you? Does the squirrel run away? Does it go up? Does it go down? Does he fall off the tree? Is he freeze?
Yeah.
It's just human nature is
Right.
like all movies are conflict, right? So you're throwing pebbles essentially at characters and seeing how they react. So I just try to do that process and just try to figure out what makes a character tick and how essentially they're dealing with conflict.
Sure.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
When you go into an audition room, do you have a way of winning the room? I've been asking a lot of people. I've had a lot of casting directors on lately, and I've been asking this.
Which casting directors?
I've had a lot. I just had Sherry Thomas on.
Great. She's great.
I just had Amanda Linker Doyle on.
Amazing.
Yeah, I've had a lot of great ones on.
So
Dorian Frankel I had on.
I would love to know what they think. I mean, now
BoxAngeles.com.
I truly think that
No, go ahead.
No, I think that there is no one way to win a room. But I do know that the art of auditioning, the art of actually shooting are such different process.
Yeah.
Processes or processes.
Process.
That I don't think that it translates. I've seen a lot of people crush an audition, totally screwed up when they get on set.
Right.
And people that, because really you don't have the power of the edit in an audition scenario. You really, all you have is a 1 or 2 take wonder, and you have to do it in 1 take.
Yeah.
Right. That's just not the process of how acting on screen works. Theater maybe.
Yeah.
And then also what you sort of bring into the room in terms of dress, in terms of your sense of able to work the room, in terms of actually being able to kind of manipulate the camera angles. Like, are people even watching these tapes? Because I've realized that sometimes people are sort of auditioning in the room like theater, but really, I feel like a good actor knows the canvas, the composition of what they're working through, and that determines how close you are to the camera. You don't have the power of the lens, like you don't know what sort of focal length you're dealing with, so you're just dealing with sort of a handheld camera. It just changes the effect, and you're not always dealing. It's not an even playing field.
Yeah.
So you sort of have to just be aware of all the factors in the room, and I guess just sort of work them to the best of your ability.
Absolutely. I love that. I'm in an acting class, and they encourage John Rosenfeld Studios, and they encourage us. Yeah. Oh, you've trained with him?
I trained with Leslie Kahn, and he and Leslie Kahn were together when I was over there.
Yeah. They love to encourage us to, like, every week when we bring in a scene or whatever, see what it looks like on camera, because it's like a lot of actors don't even think about that. People are looking at this on a camera. Why would you not put yourself on camera and see what it looks like?
100%.
I love that. But what I was going to say is I think a lot of the casting directors essentially said, if I boiled it down to what they say wins the room, it's obviously preparation, but also being present in the room and being like in the room, not in your head or in the pages, being in that room and connecting with the reader and making eye contact.
Absolutely. I think where most actors fail is trying to hit the beats, trying to hit the marks, over preparing, and almost not knowing. I think the best advice I could give to actors is, what is the thrust of the scene? Like, what is your character attempting to do? What is that launching point? What is the moment before? And then just take the ride.
Yeah.
Don't try to force it. Don't try to get to a certain point. Let yourself be surprised, because then they're going to be surprised. But I always know that every time I'm trying to hit a beat when it's not organic, then it will never translate.
Right.
And I find that even just kind of attempting to do something different, to do something that that seems like a big swing, like, you might as well take the big swing.
Yeah.
Then and go down in flames, then play it safe.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Which is funny. I think in life I do that, but maybe not so much in auditions, which is funny.
Yeah. Well, but if you really think about it, it's like you're either going to be the top 1%, but then the other 99 do not matter. Right? Like,
that was very bleak.
No, but like it's very bleak. You're kind of a dick, Glen Powell. No, it's like they don't matter. It's like, if you're number 2, you're not getting that job.
Yeah.
Right? So you might as well be with the rest of the 99.
Right.
Right?
Fair.
You missed it by 1, but you still don't get the job.
Right.
So playing it safe, you might as well take that top 1%, that one person, that top slot is going to go to somebody who you're sort of flawless, you crush it, or you bring something original or magical to it. And if you look at somebody who's watching so many things over and over, it's almost like a song they've heard over and over.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
Over. And everybody's doing it the same way, and everybody has the same take that they think is original. But the person that sort of does something a little different, a little off, somebody takes a risk. Did you ever see Kiss Kiss Bang Bang?
Oh, yeah.
You remember that scene where he stumbles, like they just robbed the toy store.
Okay.
He's going to get a toy for his kid.
Yeah.
Robert Downey Jr.'s character.
Yeah.
And he stumbles into this room, and they're holding an audition in this room.
Yes.
And it literally happens. The sides were like a cop that like accidentally got his partner killed.
Right.
And like he like literally organically just sort of like breaks down crying, and he's like holding the person in his hands, like clutching him. And I remember looking, I was like, oh, that is what appeals to somebody. They're like, it's method, like it's so good. But what it just says to me is that, number one, you have to find a personal way to connect with the character, but also take the big swing.
Yeah.
Because that's the guy that's going to get it.
Yeah.
It's not the guy that's that's just trying to be amicable or do a service.
I think there's something to the idea that you can bring somebody back, but you can't necessarily push them there too.
What do you mean?
Like, if I go to that point where I'm method and I'm crying, I think it's easier to reel me in than it is to draw that out of somebody.
Absolutely.
And I think when they see that, they're like, oh, okay, he can stretch.
Absolutely.
We can bring that back down.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I think that's a really, really smart. I think it's a very smart way to go.
Do you self-tape much? Does that happen for you at all?
I used to quite a bit. I never enjoyed self-tapes because I don't think that you sort of have the same magic. I
agree. But that's because we're charismatic in the room, I like to think. And that's not me being, that is me being confident, but I think there is something to it.
I think with self-tapes, my whole strategy was I might as well, if I'm going to do a self-tape, I might as well actually shoot the movie like I'm going to shoot the movie, right?
Right, yeah.
Where I would literally have camera movements and I would shoot it in a real...
wow.
Like if I were in a kitchen, I'm shooting it in my kitchen and I'm like opening the microwave and talking to somebody and I'm like throwing it over my shoulder and like...
And you did that for a lot of them?
Yeah.
And it worked?
A couple times, yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, but for me, like that's the only benefit of that medium, right? Like having a self-tape at home, you have access to a set and props and all that stuff. So you might as well do that. Not agents don't necessarily like it. Casting directors don't necessarily like it. They'd rather you just be on a blue screen.
Right.
I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm just saying that it worked a couple times, and that I feel that the art of acting is not being in an office building in Burbank trying to do everything with, like if I'm just having a beer with you, I might as well have a beer in front of me. Right. Right? Instead of going...
Yeah. Miming it. Yeah.
It's just like, what is that? Like, How hard
But you
is it
do
to
do
build?
great space work, by the way.
Oh,
I
thank
did
you.
see a beer in your
Wow,
hand.
isn't that incredible? Yeah. What a talent.
Did the casting directors comment on your tapes where you were doing it in like a kitchen stuff? Did they ever come back to you?
You know what's really weird is there's a lot of casting directors that. So there was a while there. So when I first came out here, I got signed very quickly. I did this movie called The Great Debaters when I was 17, and Denzel's, who directed the movie, his agent Ed Lamato.
Denzel who?
Denzel Washington.
Oh,
Up
the
and coming
Denzel.
actor. Yes.
I didn't know if it was Denzel
Washington.
Smith.
Denzel Smith. I just try to say Denzel and hope people don't correct me on it. Denzel Washington was like really, really generous and sort of a big, a help with me coming out here. And he and his agent were sort of my only friends when I first moved out here. And when Ed Lamato, who was this legendary agent, he passed away, about a year and a half, 2 years after I moved out here. I was sort of, the agency sort of turned their back on me, and I sort of didn't have an agent for a while.
Yeah.
And it was really tough. So I actually got a lot of casting director emails.
Oh.
And I basically got the breakdowns. I paid some guy to give me the breakdowns. I'm sure you probably know what that's about, right? You
Yeah, I
get
do.
breakdowns.
But this year they've gone dark, bro.
Oh no.
I think the one intern that had them got caught.
Oh no.
I had like 3 sources in January. All of them are dried up now.
That's not good.
I know it
That
sucks.
sucks.
Especially for somebody that knows a bunch of casting directors from his podcast. It really
Yeah.
sucks.
By the way, that's really tough because honestly, that was my approach.
Mine too.
There was this one movie. You don't get a lot of bites because casting directors don't like it. They're
Right,
like,
of course not.
they'd rather, they don't want some.
They want the
random
normal
schmo.
channels. Yeah.
So but what I would do is I would get the breakdowns from our sketchy friends.
Yeah.
I would get show facts. I would tape the audition. And then I would email it directly to the casting director.
Oh, wow.
Or their assistant.
Yeah.
And I would do that pretty much every day for a couple years.
Good for you.
Just plugging away, trying to get something.
And that's great reps too.
Absolutely.
Like repetition wise.
Yeah. No reps.
Not reprepretation.
Yeah, repetition. Yeah. And then it did come about that there was a movie called Flight, the one that Denzel did, that I basically sent it to the casting director, but I also sent it to Denzel. and the process kind of kept going on. I didn't really hear much. But then I found out it was like basically between me and another guy.
Oh, wow.
And so like I was unrepresented. like nobody knew. And everybody's like, wait, it was a pretty good role. And there was like, who is this guy? So it ended up sort of working out in my favor there. But then I ended up, the guy that I've been with since is a guy named Joey Stanton. And I followed him from Paradigm.
Yeah.
Where no one wanted me at Paradigm, and no one really wanted him there either.
Oh, wow.
He basically had like a fire escape ladder in his office, like where his chair was supposed to be. There was a fire escape ladder. Like he couldn't even sit down at his own desk.
That's ridiculous.
And then we went to this company called Resolution, and then we went to CAA, and then I followed him to ICM. So we've had a real run together. But he's it's actually his birthday today.
Oh, happy birthday.
Yeah.
That's
Not
hilarious.
to me, but yeah, to him.
Happy birthday, Joey.
Happy birthday, Joey. But yeah, he and I have the same perspective and the same sort of work ethic about this town. And I think in a town where a lot of people just sort of agent with their wallets, he definitely agents with his heart. And I think that's why we sort of stuck with each other and stuck together and done some things that I think a lot of people didn't think we were going to do.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I like the idea that you don't love self-tapes, but it seems like you submitted so many of them and it worked for you for a while.
Well, you don't love self-tapes because the odds, I feel like, are stacked against you. I feel like if you're not in the room, there's the politics. You have to look at the politics of the casting directors, too. They have to service the agency.
Yeah.
And the agents, and there's politics that go around that. Like, and you hiring some random guy who's self-taped, it doesn't benefit you. There's no political capital exchange in that scenario.
Right.
So you do have to realize that the odds are not only stacked against you in terms of the medium, but I do feel like the odds are also stacked against you in terms of the politics that surround getting that role.
Sure. Do you hold sides when you go into a room for an audition?
Yeah, I think it makes people nervous when you don't hold sides because if you lose your track, they're like, oh, this is about to be a fiery helicopter crash. They're like somebody's going to. When somebody loses it and they don't have their sides, that bad things can happen. It's going to get awkward for everyone. I always keep them there just in case, but I'm always trying to be off book.
Yeah. I found with the casting directors, it's split. Some say hold them and some say don't.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's really kind of, it's divisive a little bit with the casting directors I've had.
Interesting. Yeah. That's more of a casting director, answer. I just know that I prepare to not use those things. But look, when nerves get a hold of you, you never know what's going to happen.
Right. Absolutely. How do nerves manifest themselves for you? Do you get nervous?
Yeah. It just depends on sort of what you have to sort of bring in the room. I think for me, it's really about headspace for me. It's like I can get to a lot of places emotionally. I know that, but the hard part is when you're in an audition scenario, you have to be the funniest guy in the room. Then you have to break down into tears, and then you have to do like an intimate scene. You have to do something really broad and crazy. Like you have to be a complete psychopath to be able to pull off, or just the most well-trained actor. Maybe that's it. I have no idea. But like for me, getting to those places on set, when I have, again, the frame working for me and can kind of be in a certain headspace to surprise myself, I can. It's just a lot easier. I feel like
absolutely, yeah.
I think somebody told me recently. Who was it? Some well-known actress. I can't remember. It was like
Denzel Smith.
My favorite actress, Denzel Washington. No, they said that that acting is like walking onto a construction site full of strangers, breaking down into tears, and then walking back into your truck. And I thought it was so genius because that is exactly what it feels like.
Yeah.
It's like there is nothing organic about it necessarily, but I do have tricks, I feel like, on set that allow me to sort of get into a different headspace, and I don't feel like those tricks necessarily come into play as well in an audition scenario. But I do think audition scenarios or auditions are good practice to practice like you play.
Yeah.
But I do not think it's reflective of what we do.
What are your tricks on set?
On set, I think a lot of it is music helps me a lot. I feel like I can kind of like I just tell people like, hey, like I'm gonna go off over here. Let me know when you guys are ready. But I'm just gonna if it's super emotional, I can stay in a certain headspace pretty easily.
If it's emotional, what do you do? Adele or something?
Adele. Yeah, Adele gets me every time.
Hello.
Bruno Mars gets me.
Bonnie Iver.
Lizzo.
Do you have any hobbies or rituals outside of acting or performing? Do you have any
Absolutely. Well, I think one of the things that keeps me incredibly busy is screenwriting.
Oh.
That was actually something that when I was sort of, finding no one that wanted to hire me as an actor, screenwriting paid the bills. I sold a couple really bad screenplays.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
At least people bought them, and it paid the bills for a bit. And now that sort of skill set is coming in handy because we've sold some more. But now as an actor, now that the acting stuff, we're finding a little bit, fewer people saying they don't want me. The writing side is and understanding story and understanding what makes you lethal as an actor. All those things come into play when you at least understand screenwriting.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what that writer's going for and the beats and things
exactly.
like that.
Exactly. Yeah. And you're able to talk to writers about those and you don't sound like an egotistical actor.
Yeah.
A lot of actors are like, yeah, I should be stronger here. And you're like, that's not the note. Like that comes from ego rather than story. And like a writer doesn't want to hear that. There's like, I cannot wait for this person to be out of my trailer.
Absolutely.
I don't want to talk to them.
Yeah.
And if you can talk to them about truly the things that make your character tick within the ecosystem of the story, then you find way less resistance because they know that you're not just trying to, have the bigger gun in the scene or like have the last punch or have the bigger moment, or just look cool or, have a better dramatic arc than this other person. It comes when you can give notes that truly also lift your fellow actors up, and then just make it a story that crackles. People know that you're not just out for yourself; that you're out to make a great movie. And I think that's what the difference between actors that survive in this town and actors that don't. I think it's actors that are in great movies, and if you can be an actor that can only enhance the movie as a whole, I think people know that and they want to keep hiring you.
Absolutely, totally agree. What about just outside of entertainment? Do you have anything you do to unwind or relax?
Yeah, I go to the ranch in Texas. I decompress there a bit.
And you ride horses and bulls?
Yeah. We
That's
do a little bit,
crazy.
a little stuff like that. Yeah. So we're
That sounds like the opposite of relaxed to me. That sounds like...
Well, I think it's just getting, I mean, I don't know. Did you play sports growing up?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So,
Oh yeah. Play a little football, play a little puck.
There we go. Oh, you played some puck.
Ran a little hurdle.
I played football and lacrosse. I just feel like, I don't know about you, as growing up, like I feel like you sort of miss the physical nature of like sort of like physical competition and going head to
Oh,
you just get softer. Like there's not those opportunities to like square up and like, get that sort of out. And I feel like Texas, there's an aspect for me where I actually feel like not so soft. Like, you know what I mean? Like I just feel like it's going back as like makes me a little bit more of like a man again.
Yeah.
And I can come back here and like drink kombucha and go to Air One.
Go vegan.
Go vegan,
I was thinking that when football just started out, how I was like, when was the last time I caught a football? I want to go play some football.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing I do on set. That's actually another thing that I find before I act. I have a football on set, so I always toss around like a football on set.
Who do you toss it to?
Other actors, other people with hands.
I figure actors are like, what is this thing?
Oh yeah, I mean some people are. I just find that there's if you're just even like tossing a baseball or a football, something that can sort of not only get your blood pumping, because I think you get your mind pumping, and also like even if it's like dancing or like throwing a football or like just being goofy, like getting on your telling a joke, but like sweating a little bit, laughing a little bit, whatever it is. Mel Gibson had that trick on Expendables. If people were ever in their own head, he would always tell jokes. You get people laughing, and it sort of just diffuses any sort of. Some people have to like ramp up into acting, but that's not what great acting is. Great acting is actually disarming,
right,
completely. And I think those sort of skills. I think for me, throwing a football is just like it's just a connection with people. So you're sort of listening and responding the same, but just as throwing and catching is listening and responding.
Yeah.
And so it sort of translates.
That's kind of beautiful.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
What size football are we talking?
College football.
Okay.
Yeah. Not friggin'
The NFL one's ginormous.
Yeah, just too many. Yeah, it's like actors that have never thrown footballs. It's like this is gonna be awkward for everybody.
Do you do anything with your right brain? Like I've been asking people this lately because I like to do like a puzzle.
Yeah.
Because you go to like an acting class where there's no answers, there's no solution to it. There's many choose your own adventure ways to get through it, and then you come home and you do a puzzle, and there's something just that tickles my brain about having a solution. Do you have any right brain things you?
That's really
even if it's like a crossword puzzle or like Sudoku.
No, that's a really interesting thing. I think a lot of brainstorming for me tends to be very right-brained. Like I do love like when I try to turn off logic as much as possible when I'm like, okay, here's a story beat, and we like see what's the most fun thing to do with it. It usually lives in the fun. The fun is the right brain. You as a writer, writers have to operate off of logic, plot beats, story beats.
Right.
What the empirical things that make a character work. Right.
Yeah.
Whereas the actor, the great part is I find the greatest actors tend to be sort of flighty, bananas people because they live in the right brain, and the right brain is all creative, and you don't have to subscribe to as many rules.
Right. Wait, you mean left brain?
I mean, the left brain. The left brain obviously has already layered those rules for you, so you just get to live. You just get to color between the lines. Yeah. And figure out what shade you want to do, and it's a much more fun place to live. So I personally find I love talking movies with people. I love just watching movies while I'm shooting a movie. I try to watch as many movies that are like kind of tonal comps.
Oh, that's cool.
Steal and borrow from there.
Yeah, that's smart actually.
Yeah. So that's maybe my most right brain thing. But
I love that.
Yeah.
That's dope.
Yeah.
Where are you from? You mentioned Austin.
Austin, yeah.
Born and raised?
Yeah, born and raised in Austin.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Did you feel like you were in the country when you were growing up? Were you on a ranch growing up?
I'm in the hill country. I mean, I'm not like in downtown Austin.
Right.
I'm out, but
what were you doing for fun as a kid?
Oh, it's for fun? All sorts of stuff. Obviously I played a lot of sports. I loved musicals as a kid. Yeah, I was a big musical fan.
Okay.
It's really crazy. Like when I was my grandmother spent a lot of time with my Grammy, who I just saw. Grammy and I would spend a lot of times like watching old musicals.
That's awesome.
So I grew up and like when I was a kid, I asked my parents if I could take an acting class. And part of that acting class, there was a tap portion in that same theater. And so I was like, yo, I'd love to, Gene Kelly and Fred Astaire,
Yeah.
Donald O'Connor, some of my favorites, they all learned how to tap dance, Frank Sinatra. And so I was like, yeah, can I take tap dancing? So I like learned how to do that.
That's awesome.
As a kid.
How old
It was
were
really
you
cool.
then?
Maybe like 10, 11, 12.
And that was you just wanted to take an acting class from your love of musicals.
My acting I wanted to do since I saw Indiana Jones.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Indiana Jones was like, I was like, all right, I want to be Harrison Ford. Like, that's the coolest guy on the planet. That was one of the reasons I became an actor. And I think since my dad and I would just spend all day in the theater sometimes, and just, he's a huge movie geek, and I became one too. And so
Was he not working?
actually, you know what's crazy is like the weekends I would play, like, I just remember what we would do is like I would wake up, I was taking violin.
Okay. Wow.
I wanted to learn how to fiddle.
Jack of all trades.
Yeah, right. So I took violin. I would take it early in the morning on Saturdays, and then right after that, we would go to this place called Walkaholic, which was this Chinese restaurant near our house. And then we would literally just spend.
That's a funny name.
It's a great name, right? Walkaholic. And then we just spend literally the rest of the day in the movie theater. And then we just like talk out the movies. And
Did you pay for every movie?
No,
You just did the one and done?
Just one and done. Just eat a big Chinese meal and just stay in all day. Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, my dad and I are the reasons that the theaters are dying.
Yeah. I think we all did that at some point. It was an obvious move to do.
Yeah.
Until they funnel you out the back exit, why wouldn't you just pop into another?
Like, you guys still here? Just disguises after every movie.
Wait, so you played sports and you did acting and you played violin and you tap danced.
Yeah.
Literally did a little everything.
Yeah.
I get that. I still haven't been to Texas, but I get that Austin is sort of the blueberry and the tomato soup or whatever they say.
Absolutely.
But did you get flack for being in the arts with your like athletic buddies? Did you have like a real high school musical moment where?
No, I didn't do it in school. That was like the weirdest. I sort of had my secret passion, outside of school.
Yeah.
In school, I did, I was an athlete in school, and I was a pretty good student. And then outside of school,
You trailed off there. Pretty
good student. I was a pretty good student. This is lame. So I did, and then outside of that, I would really, one of the big in middle school, early high school is where I did all the musical theater. Musical theater company went under, and at that sort of time, the film started coming to Austin. There was a tax incentive.
Yeah.
So I started becoming the go-to guy. There weren't that many, actors my age out there. Yeah. So I became kind of the go-to guy for a lot of those roles. And then,
Sorry, how did you find the time to do sports practice after school, I would presume, and then musical theater?
So sports practice in middle school is just not as intense as when you're
Sure,
like
in
high
middle
school
school,
football.
yeah.
And like that then it was just like no time. There's no way I could have done it.
Oh,
And
you
that's when-
abandoned it in high school.
What?
You abandoned sports in high school?
The company. I mean, I couldn't have done it anyway, but the company went under.
Gotcha.
So they were doing these like huge Broadway level sort
damn.
of productions. I mean, they would literally have.
No wonder they went under.
Yeah, no, I mean,
That's
it was huge millions of dollar shows, right?
They shouldn't have put up Spider-Man into the
Totally, exactly. Same company. No, but they had all these. They had all these like Broadway performers. They would fly in, and it was like
Wow,
huge.
holy shit.
Huge deal.
How many people are in Austin? It's like 200 grand? Is it more
In
than that?
Austin?
Yeah.
Oh no, a million.
There's 1 million people in Austin?
Absolutely.
Oh,
I bet-
shit. I
bet
thought it
you'd
was
be
way
like
smaller than
maybe
that.
1.5 million now.
Oh, my goodness.
I bet you.
Always fact checking.
You want to take
Call in now. Give us your best. Winner
bet
gets
you.
2 tickets to
I bet you.
Box Angeles Live
Austin,
at the
Population.
Grauman's Chinese Theater.
2019. Austin population.
It's kind of embarrassing that you don't know for sure the answer.
Oh, that's what's weird.
Uh-oh.
Hold on. It's not really giving me like very good stats here. All right, 2018. 1.1.
Oh my gosh, I didn't realize it was
Yeah.
epic. And you were the only actor in your age bracket when the movies came
No,
out?
not
When
the only
movies-
actor. I was the
Only good one. I get it.
You know what I meant. You know what I meant. No. I think what happens is like, look, out here in LA, everyone comes out here to be an actor.
Yeah.
Or something in entertainment. And so you are dealing with the best of everywhere.
A big pond.
Big pond. And look, Austin, Austin, there was other people that I would kind of constantly go out against, but it's not like this kind of competition.
Right.
You can be good. Like, I was fine, but like, you didn't have to be like stellar. I didn't have to blow people away. They were like, he'll do for these few lines.
Which I oddly feel like this kind of goes without saying, but it's a nice little benefit to have. I mean, you sharpen your skills, you hone your skills in a smaller market.
I got very comfortable
with legitimate productions. I mean,
100%.
It's a good leg in.
Yeah.
Leg in? Is that a saying?
I don't know. Now you've literally made me rethink that entire saying. I'm like, is that a saying?
Toe in? Foot in? Foot in? It's a good foot in.
Foot in the door.
Yeah.
You put a whole leg. I don't know.
So did you have a representation?
Yeah. So there are agents on.
Okay. And you just submitted as you would, and then you just started, once those films started coming, you just started going out?
Yeah. So
did they have auditions during school?
Not in school. So none of this was ever in school. It was all out of school.
Like while you were supposed to be at school, did you ditch out to go to auditions?
Like there was this one time where I was in algebra class and my mom came and sick. Algebra's dope.
I mean that you got to skip, but sure.
Yeah.
Shout out to algebra.
You're easy to please. Algebra. So I was in algebra class, like a badass. Yeah, dude. So finding out what those letters meant, and then my mom knocked on the door to the portable and said, "Can I borrow Glenn for a second?" And so I walked outside, and she literally drove me down the street to a parking lot. I was doing a movie called The Wendell Baker Story, where the stunt guy, I had a stunt in the movie where I got hit by a car. So the stunt guy hit me like 20 times with his car in this church parking lot, and then I just walked right back into algebra class, right? Because I had missed, because you can only miss so many days of school that I had to sort of like sneak around. And I also had my high school counselor, Michelle Coteras, was an angel, and Nancy Driscoll, who worked with her, were the two people that helped me manage when I should leave and when I shouldn't leave.
Yeah.
And when it was important to stay and miss like a opportunity, and when I could go. But without them, I don't think I would be able to attend most of those auditions.
Were you the only person like on set when you?
What do you mean?
Just that example you were talking about on set, right?
Which one?
When you got hit by a car?
Oh, that was prep for the movie. So I had
you were actually leaving your school.
I didn't go. I had to leave class to go to a parking.
You said portable, so I thought you meant like a trailer. What's a portable?
Oh, a portable? Where they don't have enough space in a school, they have these things called portables outside. There's those they're like kind of usually like ugly like tan buildings. Okay. They have like a wooden ramp up to them.
Gotcha.
They're just like a classroom, but it's not in the school.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes more sense. I thought you were on set.
It's not a good look. No.
Gotcha.
No. So basically, this was just prep for the movie, but it sort of resembled, honestly, like it worked out on some of them. Like I shot a show called Jack and Bobby. It was a Greg Berlanti show, and I did like 2 weeks on that. But it happened to fall on the Friday before spring break, and right afterwards. So I missed like I think 2 or 3 days of school maximum. The hardest one was a show I did called Into the West, and that was a mini series, and that's when I had to like do they have to have like the tutor for you, and you have to be like, and the school was not that cool, me missing, because I was a lot of AP, IB sort of classes, and they don't like you having like some random tutor and doing this classwork far away. So again, like I had a lot of people that bent over backwards to make it work.
That's awesome.
And without them, I couldn't have done it.
You don't happen to know Ryan Kelly, do you? He was on Teen Wolf on MTV.
No.
He had a very similar situation. He was in Chicago, and he was just booking commercials after commercial, but they were not supportive at all. They like sat down with his parents and were like, he can't be in the school anymore because he's missing so much. It's distracting. So that's awesome that they bent over to help you out.
Well,
bent over to help you out. God damn it.
Yeah, we all make it to Hollywood differently. Yeah. The thing about it is that I find that schooling there needs to be rules to not have like complete anarchy, but I also find that people like kids that are attempting to do something great doesn't necessarily line up within those walls, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And kids that are like down to throw themselves out there to try this thing, like, I don't think it should be punished necessarily.
I agree.
You know, and it's like these kids are attempting to work and try to make money and like attempting to swing at a profession that's really freaking hard. And this is the highest percentage time. It's the most likely time that it will ever happen.
Yeah.
Because the pool is smaller, the competition is not as stringent, and it's usually more off of like a look or a thing rather than like pure performance. And once you get out here, it's definitely not a meritocracy, but it's much harder to win the job. So I think, you know, not that I think that, you know, school should be promoting people missing, but my family, the old adage in my family is like, the lamest people on earth are people with perfect attendance at school. I never want to be friends with that person, right? It means you're not doing anything. It means you're literally just coloring in the lines in every way. Like, I want to be around the guy that's like, yo, you've been to detention a lot of times. Like, you know, like, you seem like a good time, you know?
I love that. Were you booking right away when you were auditioning as a kid? Or did it take a little time before you started to get work?
Yeah, I tried a bunch of, I wasn't like booking right away. But I remember one of my first auditions was for Spy Kids 3D Game Over, which was my first movie.
Yeah. It was huge too.
But yeah, it was a big movie and it was really exciting. It was like the biggest project in Austin. And I auditioned for this character called E-Dog and Logos. And they were like these two like badass, like they had like goatees and they were sort of like the bad boys. And I was 13 and I sounded like Mickey Mouse and I was like, I just looked like a kid off a Life commercial. You just like, hey, how you doing? It's like not gonna work, right? So the problem is I literally get to the callback with Robert Rodriguez and it's 3 or 4 guys. It's 3 guys with full beards, right? They're all like 17, 18 years old, beards and like kind of grungy. And then there's me, and I was like looking up. I was like, "What am I doing here?" Right? Like I was like, like if they put a goatee on me, it's gonna look creepy. You know, it's like what is gonna happen? And I ended up getting a better role in the movie.
Oh, that's awesome.
I ended up getting audition for this thing, and it kind of taught me that you're never sort of out of the fight.
Absolutely.
You know?
And it's back to what we were talking about earlier. Like if you swing for it, you stand out more. And in those situations, I always find if I don't look like everybody else, it means they're considering changing the role because I brought something that they really like.
Absolutely.
So I think that's always a benefit.
I
like,
completely
look at these schmucks that look identical.
Oh, that's always that's always sort of a soul sucking thing. Whenever I think they had that moment in La La Land when she like walked in the audition room and just saw like every derivative of her.
Yeah.
There is something soul sucking in this town when you start going. Especially commercial auditions. I don't know if you've gone out for commercial auditions.
That's all I pretty much go out for.
It's just the worst.
It's exhausting.
There's no time that you feel like your personality matters less than in that.
Yeah.
You know, in that scenario.
Tell you a book. I just booked one where it was all
Congrats.
bald guys, and they were like, "You're fucking hilarious." I was like, "Yeah."
Sweet.
Great story, right?
Yeah. Sweet.
Can I ask you something? Because I feel like you might do this. And when I brought this up, I feel like other actors are kind of like back away from me saying this. When you go into an audition room, do you size up the other people?
Nah, I mean, here's the problem is that you start sizing up people. I think you will start even on accident, competing against them or trying to highlight attributes that they don't have or trying to... Denzel told me, he goes, never look in the other lanes, right? You're running your own race, right? And I think it's the truest piece of advice I've ever gotten because ever since I've been out here, the people that were taking all the roles where I was like, man, this guy's they're going to be the biggest movie star and, you know... God, I'm always going to be picking up his scraps, and if I could only get to there, it's like some of them aren't even in the business anymore.
Yeah.
And what you do is you try to be. I remember, and look, I'm so excited for Robert Pattinson the moment he's having. He's a really nice guy, but I remember when I first got out here, and Robert was obviously having his Twilight moment. You know, my agents were like, Glenn, you got to be more brooding, man. Like you got to be more like mysterious and brooding. And I'm like, it's not who I am, man. I'm like a Texas guy who's just like. Look in the eyes, shake your hand. I'm not like, awkward or whatever. Right. It's like, that's not what I'm selling. And like that's what's selling in the business. And it was sort of they were looking at what the marketplace was taking rather than what I could offer the marketplace.
Yeah.
And Denzel knows that, like, yo, if you are running your own race, like, you are the best guy for the movies that you know, what you will bring is, you know, only you. And if you're trying to be somebody else, it's never going to work.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like it's more applicable to commercials again, because when I go in for a bald guy, it all looks the same. But like, I went in for my first TV audition in months last week, and nobody looked like me. I was like, this is just crazy.
Yeah.
It was like a security guard role under 5.
Yeah.
And everybody, there was women, men, everybody looked different. I was like, oh, okay. So I do like that, stay in the lane for that, especially because it's like, how are you going to be anybody but yourself in that situation?
Well, also those like under 5 roles are always funny auditions. Like, you know, I remember auditioning for, like, it was like Cold Case or something. It was like for one line, and it was like, oh yeah, bathroom's that way or something like that, you know? And like everybody,
I felt
like,
it.
oh my God, right? I was like, oh.
I didn't see Glenn there for a second. I saw victim number 2.
Yeah. The guy that's about to get stabbed when that guy goes to the bathroom. But the thing about it is because there's such a drum roll to that moment, there's such a, you realize the stakes of it. It feels so important. You always try to sell the shit out of that line. You know, like, bathrooms that way. Yeah. You're like, that's not going to work, right? And if you just literally throw it away,
right,
that's what's going to work. They're like, great, that guy's not going to be an idiot on set. But those under 5 ones, I think, are the toughest.
They are hard.
You have one. I was on a movie I recently did. I was telling one of the other actors that came in for one of those roles. They just had like a line, and they were having, like, because they knew this was their moment, and I was like, and they were having trouble, and they were trying to like coach him down. I was just like, yo, like, the best thing you can do here is literally throw it away, and you're gonna look like a champ.
Yeah,
you'll look so cool and whatever. But if you don't, it tonally, you know, it's like,
yeah,
and it's tough. And I went up to Maverick and was like, that is the toughest job in Hollywood. Having one line in a scene, it is the toughest job.
Yeah,
because you just want to make it good.
Good for you for fucking supporting.
I know what it's like.
No offense, nobody on set while you were.
No,
I appreciate that.
Look, we've been there. We've all been there, and it's like,
yeah, you and me, we've been there.
No, it's like it sucks to be the guy that comes in that is not part of the group,
right,
that's not
like
part of the ensemble, that nobody's really paying attention to.
You're there for a day.
They don't really, you know, they're not going to remember your name, like, you know, that whatever. And it almost feels like when they have like their big character moment, the cameras are always drifting away from you to them, and you're like, okay, like, this isn't as big of a moment. Like, is this line off camera? And you know, they're just trying to come in and kill it.
Yeah.
Right. And I always appreciate actors that just come in and work their ass off. They're you know that they've written pages of character research and stuff for the background.
All their pebbles.
Just to make it great. And you know that there's very little glory in that job, but they're coming in and they're going to try to make it the best they can. And I always appreciate that as an actor, seeing somebody that's like put in the work and wants to be great.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. So back to your early acting. Did you get it? You got into SAG right away then, I presume?
Mm-mm.
Oh, no.
Actually, all right. So Texas is the right to work state. Oh. So you don't need to be SAG.
Okay.
So after Spy Kids, I was SAG eligible for a while. But it wasn't until I did The Great Debaters, that one that Denzel directed, that I had done enough projects outside of Austin that SAG basically said, you're no longer not allowed to join. So they basically threatened me and said, like, we're going to shut down production if you don't join.
Oh, shit.
So, yeah.
Were you getting SAG rates on those films in Texas then?
Yeah, you get SAG rates. Yeah, you get SAG rates, but because if the project is SAG, they have to pay you SAG rates.
Gotcha. Yeah. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Okay, so then did you have a, what's it called? Duty account?
A duty account? What's that?
What's it called? The account where the kids have to put like 60% of their money in?
Yeah, like the Macaulay Culkin.
Yeah, what is it called?
Situation.
Tom Holland account?
Tom Holland. I think Tom's.
I can't think of it.
No, so I
did you have one of those?
Yes.
Oh, nice. Was that a nice little?
Oh, it's not. I mean, look, I'm not
18,
making
like,
Macaulay
hey!
Culkin. No.
Yeah, but there had to be something in there, right?
Straight to the strip club. 18. No, with acting, you don't really make that. But I think people think you're making more money than you are. Like,
I thought you were.
That's so sweet of you. Yeah. There was nothing about me. I don't think I could have.
I've had some very successful child actors on here, and like they bought a house with theirs when they turned 18 or whatever.
Yeah, but I was not a successful child actor. I would do like a 1 or 2 line thing. I mean, I'd done things, right? But like nothing where you're getting
Right,
paid.
you're
Like,
doing like 2 weeks or
yeah, if I were on like your boy that's on like Teen Wolf or whatever.
Your boy.
Your boy.
Ryan Kelly, yeah, he did great.
Right? So you're making bank on a show like that. Like
Coogan account.
What?
Coogan account.
That's not a thing. Is that really a thing?
Yeah, that's what it is.
I would pass on that Jeopardy category for sure.
The moment you said Ryan Kelly, it said Coogan account in my head. It came back.
Great.
Yeah, yeah.
Something that you shout out in the middle of the night when you have night terrors. Coogan account. It's like everybody's like, what?
Yeah, and the difference being that he was doing commercials, so those residuals pile up.
Yeah,
whereas you probably didn't have.
That money's real. I mean, those people make money. I mean, I was making bare minimum. You know, the one movie that I would do like a year, you'd make like, if you worked a day, you make like $800.
Right.
If you work a week, you make 2,000 or whatever.
Right.
So it's not. You're not ever
stacking
no. You're
chips.
not stacking chips.
So when you turned 18, did you move right to LA, or was the Great Debaters a little bit later?
I did my freshman year at the University of Texas.
Oh, you did.
Yeah.
Why'd you do that?
Because I didn't really believe it was going to work out.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, I had a lot of my buddies that had moved to LA, attempted to do the acting thing over the course of like since I'd been acting since I was like 10 years old, right?
Yeah.
So they'd moved. I had buddies that were like, "Oh, I'm going to LA," and over the course of basically from 10 to 18. I had so many of my buddies that had been like, that town is the worst.
Oh my
Like,
God.
Nothing happened. They moved back. They got like a guest star. Somebody touched them. You're just like, I'm out. I mean, like I said.
Was it Cold Case?
It's Cold Case. God damn Cold Case. Never trust those 5 and unders. No, I feel like people just had
Doomsday stories.
Doomsday, bad experience after bad experience. And said, it's not worth it. It's never going to happen. So I just never put my chips on that.
What was your intended major at Texas?
It was econ.
Oh,
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah. So I
Macro or micro? What?
I mean, it's both. It's different classes, but same major. But it was just like, it just never seemed like a viable profession to me.
Yeah.
Like a true career. So I was like, all right, I'll learn how to make money, and if I can act a little bit on the side, that's great.
Yeah. I think that's a common thing in the middle of the country. Like nobody thinks art is like a violent. Like in my hometown, there was nothing artistic.
The thing about it is the barriers to entry are changing.
Oh, absolutely.
I think that back in the day, there were the gatekeepers. You know, there were the casting directors, there were the agents, there was all those things. Now I feel like you have these really interesting people who are starting YouTube channels and Instagram, whatever. And it's like you can amass a following and sort of put your talent out there and see how people react to it and sort of be a creative, and at least there's not as many barriers to entry.
Absolutely.
I think you could think your way into a career a little bit more.
Yeah.
But I think old school, it's like the nepotism thing was way more of a thing. Like you were either the son of a movie star or you just got really lucky.
Right. Yeah. So you're at Texas, you book the Great Debaters, and then that's the impetus to move?
So when I did the Great Debaters, I was 17 years old. So
Oh, that
I
was
still in high
pre-
school.
okay.
So I was still in high school. I auditioned for the Great Debaters when I was a senior in high school. They didn't know I wasn't 18. So that was an interesting scenario about missing school. This was a crazy scenario. I went to auditioned in Shreveport, Louisiana for the casting director. Then I got a call back that said, Denzel really, really enjoyed your tape or enjoyed your audition, and he's going to invite you to the table read. Oh, actually, no, I take that back. Denzel was in the callback. I went back. I had to go all the way back to Shreveport for the callback.
Jeez.
Met Denzel, who was so nice and so cool. And I leave that audition. I get a call from Denzel.
Oh, shit.
And Denzel basically tells me, hey, I believe in you. They don't believe in you. And I was like, who's they? And he's like, basically the producers. He's like, I'm going to invite you to the table read. You're going to read your part. You're the only person at the table read not cast. But he's like, come in and kill it and prove them wrong.
Oh, geez, that's high stress.
I was like, okay. So I go back to Shreveport to do the table read. And everybody else is, they're like, oh, high five and each other, like, man, we're all here. That's so cool. They do like a speech, like how awesome it is to be a part of this movie. And meanwhile, I'm just like sweating bullets. I have in front of me Forrest Whitaker, Denzel Washington, Oprah Winfrey. It is like so stressful. And when it comes and I thought to look older is so dumb. To look older, and the character is from Harvard, and he's a Harvard debater, and it says in the movie he's wearing a tuxedo. So I wore a tuxedo to the table read. So yeah, if I didn't like stick out like a sore thumb already, like I wore a tuxedo to this table read. Everybody's like, who is this guy, right? So, and not only that, during my reading of my speeches, I stood up and I delivered them to Denzel and Oprah and Forrest, right? And I remember at the very end of my speech, he looks over to the producers and he gives like a thumbs up, and they gave a thumbs up. And then he came over to me after the table read and he said, "Hey," he's like, "You got the role, kid."
That's amazing.
He's like, "You're shipping off to debate camp with me right now." So I literally flew down to Texas Southern University with he and the rest of the cast, the rest of the main four. And we went to and learned debate camp. And
That's amazing.
I got to learn how to debate in front of Denzel Washington.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
So I've always felt just truly indebted to Denzel because he did not have to go out of his way to obviously get me that role. He didn't have to tell me, "Hey, I think you got the chops to make it in Hollywood." He didn't have to, connect me with his agent. He didn't have to do any of that stuff, and he's been nothing but a stand-up gentleman.
That's amazing.
Since I moved out.
What a fun story.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So what was the impetus to move to LA then? Or drop out of UT?
So basically what happened was I did the movie. I get a call from Ed Lamato, who is Denzel's agent, and he said, "Are you coming out for the premiere?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "I think we should sit down when you come out." So I sat down with him when I came out there, and he said, "What's your plan?" I was like, he's like, are you planning on moving out here? I was like, no. And he's like, I think you should give it a shot. Denzel and I talked, and he thinks you can actually make this happen. I think you can make this happen. And I wasn't really planning on doing it. And then we had a follow-up meeting spring break. I flew out to LA and met with some folks, and decided to leave the University of Texas after freshman year. So I left. I arrived June 3rd, 2008.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then how did you meet your current agent that you've connected with so well?
My current agent, this is the crazy part, is I was at William Morris. When I was at William Morris, he was actually on the desk next to Ed.
Okay.
Right? So
as an agent or
as
like
an assistant?
Assistant, okay.
So he was an assistant at that company, and when I would come by and say all the assistants, I didn't have any friends. So I'm just like, I'm literally like hanging, like being like, "Hey, do you guys want to hang out?" Like, I'm coming by saying hi to people. And so I'd go out with the assistants, and he was one of the assistants that was like next to all the guys. I never really kicked it with him, but like he was friends with all those guys. And he told Melissa, who is my agent's assistant, said, I think someday I'm going to represent that guy. I have this weird feeling. And then, years later, it all came to fruition. Yeah.
Agents are like dating.
It really is. It's a really weird thing. It's like, because actors, their value goes up and down.
Yeah.
And like agents' value goes up and down with that person.
Right.
There's a lot of insecurity that goes along with
absolutely.
it. There's a lot of having a fascination and an unbridled belief. And it is very similar to dating. And again, like we talked about the word no, like being a little bit unavailable, hounding an agent and saying like, "Please represent me." It's like not sexy. And saying that to a girl is not like, "Please date me." They're like, "Geez, you need to leave me alone, sir." Yeah.
That's what I'm doing wrong.
Yeah. Please,
just date me.
Yeah. You gotta be, you don't have to be Robert Pattinson mysterious, but you just gotta be a little bit more mysterious.
I couldn't pull off brooding. I'm too goofy. All right, we got to get to the set questions quick. The first one, describe what you do in 3 words. You get 3 words to explain what you do.
Just goof off.
Oh, I like that. Now you can elaborate. How do you just goof off?
I think the best things that and I feel like my best performances, I think the more I talk to actors that I really respect, the more you can take yourself, the less seriously you can take yourself, the better off you're going to be. I think it is the silliest job in the entire world, and people build stakes around that. But if you can truly just goof off, I think you're going to find yourself in really enviable territory.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Why show business? Why have you continued to pursue show business?
I find that show business, this art form, I find that for me, it's the reason that I find a fascination with so many different things. I think it highlights really cool personality traits. I think it can change your perspective on a lot of things. I think for me, like some of the things I get to develop, I get to tell the stories of real heroes that I think deserve to be highlighted. Hidden Figures, I feel like we got the chance to do that.
Oh, absolutely.
There's the story of these 3 African American women who really changed the tide of American history, and no one knew their story. And I feel like getting to do that was such an honor, and I think sort of just epitomized the best of what this business can be. And telling more stories like that, I think that's it's a medium that can be seen by millions and millions of people.
Totally.
It's pretty cool.
Why Hollywood?
Why Hollywood? Well, this is where the entertainment business is. I think that it's also, for me, even as I hopefully move up the food chain a little bit, I think Hollywood's going to continue to be part of my life always, because this is also the epicenter of where things get done. I've never considered myself just an actor. I've always tried to not have my hand out like looking for a job, but provide a great story, like write a great screenplay, or bring get the option to a book and like bring that and have at least assets that I can work. And I think when this is the town where everything is happening, this is the place where I don't think it's enough just to be the talking prop on screen.
Absolutely. Favorite part of LA?
Favorite part of LA?
Ooh.
That's a good question. I love the vibe of Venice.
Oh.
I really do love Venice. I don't live in Venice, but I love everything that Venice is. I think it's a lot of people that love to have a good time. They love to relax. I think the food's great over there. I think I love a good game of beach volleyball. People just seem happy in Venice,
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, it's a good existence. It's a good existence. Maybe I'll move over there at some point. But right now I just have a great existence in the hills. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Nice.
What content are you consuming? What TV, books, podcasts, movies? What are you taking in right now? What's on your DVR? What's in your podcast app? What do you?
What I try to do is the stuff that I'm sort of developing on the producing side. And stuff that I'm like kind of gearing up for as an actor. What I'm doing is I'm just binging on anything that's sort of tangentially related to that. Like I watched First Man last night for the technical aspect of how they pulled off some of the flight sequences. I do love stand up. Like I watched Bill Burr's thing last night. Sure. I watched Chappelle's thing the other night.
Do you go to much live shows?
I do. I live really close to UCB,
Franklin.
So yeah, nice. So I go to UCB all the time. I think that is that's a great place just to honestly get inspired. There's a lot of people that are just so much more talented than you are that are just like so funny.
That felt very pointed at me.
You are more talented than I am. No, but it's just I do find that they're way more like they're these incredible talents, and I think it's so good to laugh and just watching how. Again, what we're talking about, which is like literally just being like sort of goofy and like literally letting it go. And that's what they're doing is like the art of storytelling for them is obviously they're, with the Herald, they're going to have to sort of like have a little bit of left brain. But for them, they are letting it go. And they are awesome. And it's so fun to watch. And it just shows you how easy the job really is. Not how easy the job really is, but like, you can overthink this thing.
Absolutely. I love that you can see like established comedy titans just goof around for an hour.
It's the best.
For $5. It's super cool.
Yeah.
Did you ever take improv classes? Mm-mm. Oh, you should.
I really wish I did.
You still can.
You're like, you're shit at improv.
Now
you should.
No, now you can.
No.
You can finally afford UCB classes, I feel.
By the way, it's not cheap.
It's up to $500. When I was here, when I first moved here, it was like $350.
Yeah. Acting classes, that's kind of the weird... That's the weird paradox that I wish would sort of change, but I understand why it is the way it is. But to have a job, a full-time job to like make ends meet and take acting classes, like Leslie Cahn's, I think she's so freaking talented. But I do know that like it's very expensive. It's pretty cost prohibitive for a lot of people.
John's really good at keeping it cheaper.
Oh, okay. I
think it's like $300 a month, which seems much more reasonable.
Yeah, definitely. It's just those classes are so important, but the people that can afford them, you're just like, I always wondered, like, somebody's a trust fund kid, like how people just don't have jobs and make ends meet out here. It's really tough.
Yeah, I think everyone does have jobs. They just don't want to advertise it because there's a weird stigma about it. It's like remember the Cosby guy? Like, what was that? 9 months ago, he was ringing groceries and he got put on social media like, oh, the Cosby guy's ringing, and then it was like this huge thing. It's like,
then he got jobs after that.
Yeah, I
People
know.
were like, you know what? I honestly, I was so happy for him after that because I go, there shouldn't be a stigma attached to having
Working
a job
hard.
and
Yeah,
working
no.
hard. Like I was like so proud of how people reacted that moment because to have a job out in this town, to work at Cheesecake Factory and then go prep for your audition. It's
brutal.
And then you attempt to have like some sort of relationship. That usually doesn't happen.
No.
I attempted. I was very quickly gave up on having any sort of relationship when I moved out here because number one, you just can't afford it.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that there is no time.
Yeah.
If you're truly going to give this profession a real shot, like a girl is going to, have the bad end of that deal.
Right.
True passion, a la Whiplash, is going to there is a certain amount of finite time and there's a certain amount of bandwidth you have to actually make this thing work.
Yeah. Who would you work with if you could work with anybody?
Director wise?
Sure.
Edgar Wright.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Yeah. I think.
You ever reached out to him?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I always ask that follow up, and everyone's like, "No, I would never."
No. I'm actually pretty. One of the things I'm getting better at is that, and I think maybe I'm getting a little more brave because I realize I'm not going to get shut down as quickly. But Edgar Wright is one of those guys that I find that really knows how to move the camera comedically, knows how to tell a story within a frame, and knows how to really coach actors into really unbelievable performances.
Absolutely.
Wes Anderson's another guy. He's a Texas guy that I think is, he's a true storyteller. He doesn't just sit there and say, I'm just going to cover this thing. He really has a deft hand on why he's covering things the way they are. And as an actor, there's no safer place to be.
Absolutely. Did Edgar receive your outreach well?
Yeah. I think I'm gonna next time I'm in London, I'm gonna meet him. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I learned that from doing this podcast. It's like there's no harm in reaching out. The worst thing they're gonna do is not reply. It's not like they're gonna say, Glenn, this is not right.
Yeah.
Never reach out to me again.
Totally. It's like, I think everybody it's hard. Any part of this business is really hard to succeed in, and I think as a director, when you succeed and someone says, hey, I'm a true fan of yours, I would love to meet. Even if you don't have time, it's a nice thing to hear.
Absolutely.
So for me, it's like you shouldn't be. I do also understand that like when somebody's like, hey, let's grab coffee, I'm like, oh man, like I'm so there is like a certain amount of anxiety where you're like, can we just like, I don't know, like just catch up real, I don't know, like on the FaceTime or something. I'm like just running around like crazy. So I do understand the anxiety of when you're trying to do a ton of things and you really have no time.
Yeah.
What that feels like, but I also know that there is no harm in telling somebody you're a fan.
Yeah. Favorite thing you've done in your career is what?
Favorite what movie?
Whatever you want. I mean,
You know what movie that I really learned a ton on was Everybody Wants Some.
Oh.
The Linklater movie.
Yeah.
That will go down as maybe my favorite movie experience ever, because the collaboration that Richard Linklater, sort of allowed everybody. We just got to kick it at his ranch before the movie started, like 3 weeks before the movie started.
Oh, that's right in your wheelhouse.
Lived at his ranch in Bastrop, Texas.
That's awesome.
And we got to riff and we got to tear apart the script. We got to party at night, play games, play baseball, get to know all the guys. And some of those guys are my best friends today.
That's dope.
And I think that's like that moment sort of represented what I felt like the movie business could be.
Yeah.
Which is a true troupe. Everybody's
Collaboration,
in it.
yeah.
Everybody's in it for the same, a goal of just making something great, and everybody was lifting each other up, and it doesn't always work that way. I've had the benefit of like getting to, work with a lot of great people, but that will go down as I think one that will never be beat.
That's awesome. What's the least favorite thing you've done in your career?
My least favorite thing I've done in my career.
You don't have to name it if you don't want to, but just the reason why it didn't go so well.
I think a lot of it comes down to there's a leap of faith when you do an acting job where you don't feel appreciated, and sometimes like you can even lose money on acting jobs. Like people are like, hey, like you can have the role, but you're gonna have to put yourself up, or like you have to pay your own meals, or I've had a couple of those where you've sort of doubled down on something and it's sort of like it's financially you lose out. You don't feel like respected. You sort of don't believe in the project and you're sort of, out on your own. And it's always a problem. Like there was one movie, it was a very fun experience, but I remember the director when we were sitting down he goes, it was kind of like not a great horror movie, and but I read the script and I was like, I don't think this script's good. I didn't tell him this, but I was like to my agent, I was like, I don't know what this thing. He's like, no, it's like I think it's actually going to be decent, right? Like there's a lot of good producers on it. This guy's pretty promising, and I was like, okay, and he's like, I was like, so what's sort of the inspiration? He goes, this movie's not a horror movie. It's The Deer Hunter, and I was like, oh, maybe it is The Deer Hunter. Then I shot it. I was like, no, it's a bad horror movie. This is not The Deer Hunter. But you know what's funny is you know, again, that was actually a really fun experience. So I actually never regret a great experience, and you know, because you never know what's gonna end up on the cutting room floor, and you never know what the movie's gonna be. So you can only have fun with the process, right? You can't. One of the greatest. I have this thing on my wall in my house. It's a letter from Richard Linklater. Oh. And Rick wrote all of us a letter before the movie Everybody Wants Them came out. And basically what he talked about was locking in the experience of making the movie. Yeah. Locking in the relationships that you had, the things that you learned, the memories, the things that made you laugh, the things that made you cry, and just what it was like to be at summer camp. And hold that tight, because once the critics get to it, once the publicity gets to it, once critics highlight one actor above another, and once the box office is stated, you feel differently in hindsight about the magic that occurred there. Yeah. And people tend to have a different colored glass that they highlight an experience with based on how successful it is. And what I found so magical about what Rick does and did was he just said, this is what the business can be if you don't let them get to you.
That's amazing. You know, that's so cool that he did. He hand wrote it for everybody.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Wow. It's like typed up and stuff. It's really sweet.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
super cool. Last question: how do you define success? What does success mean to you?
I think success is just being fulfilled. You know, creatively, emotionally, spiritually. You know, I find that I feel very fulfilled because I'm getting to do the job that I've dreamed about doing my entire life. I have a family that's incredible, that's very supportive. I got a great group of friends around me. You know, again, I try to be a good person to people around me, and I couldn't be happier because I'm hopefully advancing on all those fronts, you know, and I feel, but that's what I think this business is and can be for people is as long as you're not in it for the wrong reasons, I think you can be fulfilled.
Absolutely.
You know?
It was amazing.
Yeah.
You made it to the end.
Yeah, man, this was awesome.
Yeah. What do you got to promote? You got anything? Obviously, there's a movie called Top Gun.
Got Top Gun Maverick, comes out June 2020.
June 2020 with Monica Barbaro, who
do you know Monica?
That's friend of the podcast.
Yeah. Yes, of course. Yeah, Monica is incredible, and she's
bad. She looked badass in the trailer.
She is badass. She's actually we did a lot of practical flying, and she's the most badass of everybody.
Oh. Was that a little teaser? Was that a little? Ooh.
Not yet.
Yeah. Now I can't post this whole thing.
No, you're good. No, Monica. Just know that Monica. You know, as far as female aviators go, she's representing all of female aviators in the Navy.
Fuck yeah, she is.
And I think that what she does in this movie is very incredible and does justice to all those brave women.
It's fucking dope.
Yeah.
And then your social media is just Glen Powell?
Yep. At Glen Powell.
Awesome, Glenn. Thank you so much for doing the podcast. You were wonderful. I wish you nothing but continued success.
Oh, I appreciate it.
You get to choose how we end this now. Whatever you want us to do to finish it, we can do it.
I'll finish this beer.
Smash that beer. Cram it down your word hole.
There we go.
That's great.
Thanks, dude.
MTV and the Channel E. A thing for celebrity.
Anyway, this is such a bro conversation. Jeez.